A big aloha to you, and I'm going to record this thing. I'm going to use it. I'm looking at your tour schedule here, trying to figure out roughly when I'm going to run it. I guess I'll run it like the day before the thing starts.
Nice.
All right, and you have no problem. You got a good, solid level on me right now?
Good. I can
everything.
hear you fine, yeah.
Sounds good. Brother, thank you again for taking some time. I really do appreciate it that you would give me a couple minutes of your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are quite welcome. And your history with the islands goes back to where? What's your, paint a little picture for me of your previous experiences in Hawaii.
I'm sorry, say that again?
If you can, paint a little picture for me of some of your previous experiences here in Hawaii.
Oh, man, the first time we played Hawaii, we played at a place called, what was it called? Casablanca?
Okay.
And that was years ago, man. Many years ago, probably late 80s.
Anything stick out?
Oh, the beauty of the islands, man, and the whole vibe that you guys have down there. I mean, it's just, you are definitely in paradise, my friend. And trust me, I've been everywhere, and there's no place on this planet like Hawaii, for that, laid back, kind of happy-go-lucky, easy, ready to party, ready to have a good time, kind of vibe.
Well, you got a thing that you're coming from, a sort of vibe that I would have to say is kind of similar, and you say you've been all over the world, and one of the reasons is really because you have that vibe, you have this representation, you're an ambassador of where you're from. Talk a little bit about there's something to that. There's a little bit of a connection that goes real deep in your life with New Orleans.
Well, my family's been in Louisiana since the mid-1700s. My last name is Simien. We were one of the first, Creole families to settle there. And, I also have some native blood in me as well. So they've been there since the beginning of time, man. And, I'm proud about all that. I'm proud about all the fusion, of ideas and love that we have in our area. It's a melting pot. It's a place where a lot of people, a lot of ideas came together and started something new, like the whole Creole thing, man. That's a melting pot of culture and ideas. My family, I'm part French, African, Spanish, Native American, and German. And most of the people that been in Louisiana as long as my family have that same kind of mix. And the music Zydeco is influenced by all these different cultures that came together, man, in Louisiana. And we just, I'm just proud to be a part of it, be part of the whole scene. And I look forward to taking it wherever we can take it, and we've been very fortunate in the past 34 years now that I had my band. We've been a lot of places we couldn't imagine going, and Hawaii is one of them, and I just look so forward to coming back.
Where else is it that you find that it's the oddest sort of satisfaction that this music that you represent would be popular? Like when you stare there, you can't believe you're on stage and...
We've had so many situations like that. It's hard to pick out one because this music, like I said, it fits so many different formats, I mean, we do a show for kids called Creole for Kids in the history of Zydeco. I've done some stuff in, opened up for big bands. I've done some bar mitzvahs, done weddings, we've done it all, man. I mean, anything you could imagine where music would fit, this music fit, and people dig it.
In New Orleans, take me through a little bit of the area. One of the things I've always been fascinated. I've been to, when I think of the area you're from, it's really Louisiana. It's not just New Orleans, and you've said it several times, and it makes me. I've always been fascinated by the size of the state, Terrance. When I look at the state on the map, I see this giant piece of land, and often you hear about New Orleans. I've been there. That's the only place I've been. It was magical, and the melting pot sort of that you describe. When you think about as for the rest of the state, can you kind of just walk me through a little bit of the more interesting rootsy spots in Louisiana that have meant something to you?
All right. Well, New Orleans got its own thing. And then you got where I'm from, the southern part of the state, from Opelousas, Lafayette, and Lake Charles, and all that area there. You have a whole other thing happening there. Then in the northern part, you got Shreveport, which has some bad to the bone music up there. I mean, it's just a state that has so many different, like I said, so many different ideas came together there, and was free to just free to flourish. It was like New Orleans, Louisiana. The Louisiana Territory was the French frontier, in the U.S. So in my part of the world, the French culture is still a big thing. You still speak French. My parents' first language was French. Whereas people in New Orleans, they'd have to go back a couple of generations to find where their French come from. But me, is in our area, is that close. I speak French. My daughter speaks French. And it just kind of changes things a little bit. I mean, and the food, we got our own way of cooking. And our music, I always like to explain to people, okay, if you was a musician in New Orleans, you picked up a brass instrument, a trumpet, a saxophone, or a trombone. But if you was a musician in the area I come from, the swamps and the prairies, you picked up an accordion or a violin, or a rubberboard or a triangle. But just because you picked up those instruments don't mean you didn't put no soul into it.
Right.
A lot of times people take of those instruments and they think folk music and country music, which I love folk music and country music, but they don't think about soul music, blues, and that kind of African influence. And, that's what Zydeco is. Zydeco is the African influence, but using the instruments that you normally see in folk and country music.
Help me with the difference between, and forgive me for not totally understanding it, I know you say you speak French. How different is the Creole sort of language that I always thought of in myself because I went to a communications school and we had this voice and articulation. It was a really cool class. You learned a lot about regionalisms all over the United States. And so I just was trying to figure out, I always thought that the Creole was like a version of French that was sort of like a localized version. Is it the same thing or is it two different things?
Well, Creole is definitely French, but imagine speaking English from the 1700s. It's going to be different than the English that's being spoken today.
And you're saying,
especially the English in America.
You're saying the Creole is different like that.
The Creole French is the French from the 1700s, because we didn't have French in our schools until the 1900s. So you got over 200 years where people 1970s, okay, that's when we started teaching French in the schools in the area of Louisiana I came from. So you got over 200 years where French wasn't being taught in schools in Louisiana. So the French they were speaking were the French from the early French that came from the 1700s. And also, throughout that time, you had some slang thrown in there. You had some, little African, little Spanish, little Native American terms kind of mixed up with it.
Right.
And the Creole French in our area, that's what it consists of. Because, a lot of people don't realize you have Creoles all over the world. You have Creoles in the Seychelles Islands. You have Creoles in the Caribbean. You have Creoles in Europe. I mean, you have Creoles all over the world, but our Creole mix, Louisiana Creole mix, is like that, It's all that old French.
And when you think of when I think of Creole too, another experience that it brings to mind, and I hope you can maybe illustrate some of the difference, and I bet you can. I used to live in Boston. There were these friends of mine I really, really appreciated. I used to do sound for them and hang with them a bit, and they were this Haitian roots band. They were called Batwell Rada. They were not unlike Bookman Experience, but they were a little bit more roots, no drum machines, kind of like a reggae version of traditional Haitian, almost like reggae. And
that must have been some cool stuff.
Oh man, I just did, and they were so fun to hang with. They really taught me so much stuff. I get choked up talking about it, but they were just heavy, kind, decent, super smart, articulate. I mean, Max, Juju, Daniel. I remember my time with them fondly, and they always spoke as you can see where I'm getting to, because I didn't know what the hell sometimes was going on, because folks was all together. They could speak a version of Creole, and that's what they called it.
Yeah.
Is that, how different is that Haitian Creole from the New Orleans Creole?
It's very similar. It's very similar, but it's different. Like I said, each Creole, language from the different areas, they speak in that old French, like I said, from the 1700s, because they weren't being taught in school how to speak French, But at the same time, you got some localized slang that's added to it.
Yep.
And Louisiana got his own, Haiti's got his own, and Seychelles Islands. But the people I can communicate with, my style of French, the best is the Creoles in the Caribbean and the Creoles in the Seychelles Islands. I mean, we can talk, and we laughing at each other because we say some of the same things, So
Okay.
It's very similar.
Yeah, I thought so. It had, because it's also geographically, as you point out, I'm starting to see the geographical way that they're all pretty close too.
Yeah, except for the Seychelles that's in the Indian
Right,
Ocean.
except for that one. I was thinking
that's what got me when I first saw the, you know what I'm saying? When I first
the connection.
The connection way out there.
Right, right.
We went with a U.S. State Department tour out there, man, and I'm like, damn, well, how does these people have the same, almost identical culture to us? But you know what the main ingredient to the Creole mix is? French and African. Those two cultures, French and African, is what, when you got that mix, you got the Creole Louisiana, the Creole Caribbean, and the Creole
Seychelles.
You
right.
know, and that's the thing.
Yeah, that's cool. No, that's the connection there, is what you're saying. It's that in the Seychelles, you're saying the connection is the French and the African coming together to make.
That's right. That's the base.
Right, the base of the soup.
From that you had, Scottish, and like Seychelles, they were telling me the Scottish and Indian from India, and even the Oriental. Mix in there, man. It's Asian mix, Oriental Asian mix, man. It was awesome, beautiful people.
Yeah, man. Well, there's and that's sort of the vibe with those Haitian cats. I always dug I always thought, man, this music could reach such a bigger audience if people only knew about it, because it was so much more like rocking kind of reggae. It had real minor keys, so it was always real serious sounding, and they looked real cool on the stage. It was
and you see that Haitian got that mix too, man, that melting pot.
Right, that's what I mean.
And the
exactly.
DNA, okay, people don't realize, man, in your blood, there's tones to the DNA, brother, It's like, the DNA and the music comes from, generations of inspiration that instinctively come out through, the past, from the past. And, when I tell people, we go all over the world, and people will connect with this music, and they'll ask me why, because you feeling something from this music that's in the DNA of the music, the French, African, Spanish, Native American, and German mix. That all comes out through the music, So it's a real world music, and so many people can connect with it, and don't even know why they're connecting with it. Well, why do I like this? Why do I feel this like this? And it's the DNA of all that culture coming together. That when you create music, you dig deep inside yourself, and what comes, and it's hard, I guess science could explain that, but
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking, because there is a science to how those notes affect you. It's kind of like when Carlos Santana, he knows the magic couple of notes to hit that.
Oh man,
you know what I'm talking about, because it's what you're talking about. He knows how to hit just a handful of these notes that doesn't matter where you are on the planet, that it basically can touch you. He knows the emotional notes that'll hit you so hard that you'll get, you'll forget about whatever else, and you can kind of concentrate on something that's pretty deep.
Yeah, man, and it's not something that a person tries to do. They just do that, and it's given from the higher power,
right?
Exactly. And it's one of those things, you know what I'm saying?
It's magic.
Not to make a big deal about it, but it's one of those things that you have to respect. That music is a medicine.
I think that there's a lot to that. I don't discount that one bit. I in the last couple of years have gone through a lot of transition. I lost my mom and my grandmom, and
I'm so sorry.
Thank you, brother. And I just learned, though, when you say about the medicine, I find that sometimes if I have my headphones on and I'm like in like a really emotional state, kind of maybe crying or just thinking about them, and with a song that's a powerful song, I find that it's a much more amplified experience. So when you talk about I think there is a lot more than just the science to certain notes affecting you. I believe it goes potentially even deeper, that there is it's kind of like an animal. When a golden retriever looks in your eyes, brother, you can't tell me you don't feel something powerful.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. So
man, it's the spirit world.
There you are.
The supernatural world is connected. Supernatural stuff comes through music, and it's like we have a natural world and supernatural world, and music is one of those things we able to do that can pull colors and sounds and visions from the supernatural world and help you connect. Because, like you say, when you think about people that's gone before you that you miss, and you start thinking about them, and you playing a certain song that connects you with that person for whatever reason. I mean, that's when you're really feeling that emotion and that connection. It's hard. I can't explain that. You know what I'm saying? But I've seen so many things happen throughout the years where people have come to me and just told me some of the amazing, healings that they've gotten from just listening to music and just really, letting themselves go, losing themselves in the groove of the music and the song, and afterwards, you do that, you cry, you do laugh and all that, and after the song is over with, you feel so much better. I mean, it's just like that.
You identified a whole separate powerful thing too. Not only is there like the notes and the messages, but you just talked about the losing yourself in the rhythm where you are moving your body basically over and over, which in and of itself begins to change where you're at, right? So then it's a whole nother concept, because now you're moving. You're doing this over and over. It becomes this rhythm. You're somewhat in time with the music, and now your blood is circulating. So that's like a whole nother trance. Because I know that's a part of what you deliver live, and so that's I look at that as a whole nother therapeutic sort of element.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You described it perfectly. And you have to come with an open mind. You have to let yourself be open to that, to where you can just, because it's not something you do. All you do is open yourself to it and just ride the wave, go on that ride. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
And the music will take you there.
Oh, it's it. And you do. You have to say, I'm just going to do this because I will begin to feel better. And that's you described it well, because a few minutes into allowing yourself, letting yourself, like you said, you have to just put aside that, you might say, this is stupid or something. You go, no, this is actually going to be deep therapy, and I'm going to allow myself to move with this music and put other thoughts out of my head and concentrate on the sound, the notes, the world that it creates. And yes, in a few minutes, I believe you're absolutely right. It transports you to a new place.
Yes, sir. It is a good place.
It does. It really. You just have to give. You just said the magic key. Sometimes I think it's patience is what you're talking about at the root of what you're talking about. Is sometimes patience is the key. You have to wait a moment or two. It's kind of like a bootleg, Terrance. I'm sure people, because you're such a heavy-duty musician, people have given you bootlegs through the years, and I bet you've said to yourself, after several minutes of the bootleg, it sounds real crappy, the audio quality, but after several minutes, your ears get used to it, and then you can appreciate the nuance of the music on it, sort of.
Exactly. And sometimes you just have to be there and hear it live, You can never recreate that live feeling that, you get from live music,
But patience is what I'm talking about. You're right.
Patience, exactly.
You have to sometimes
wait. You gotta be patient and be open-minded and be ready.
Yeah.
Because when it's going to hit, it's going to catch you off guard, and you're going to feel something you never felt before.
No, that's a good lesson for so many things. I got to try to remember. That's, I guess, my word for the day. Have some patience. Before I wrap it up, do you have a moment for one more question, or you got to go?
Oh, no, I got plenty of time,
okay.
Man.
Just making sure. I just don't want to be jumping into your things. I love talking to you. You're the kind of cat I could just hang out with for rest of my life. You got this.
No, I'm right with you, my brother. We had a good flow and conversation going here, brother.
No, I really and I just didn't want to take up too, because I know you're valuable. You got a lot, and you're in one of my favorite cities. Boy, do I love Vancouver. Jeez, don't get me started on that one. I'll tell you one quick story on Vancouver, then I'll get back. I saw one of my greatest concerts in my entire life there. It was on the 1 year before my mother passed. It was May 6, 2012, at that big arena, the Rogers Center, whatever it's called. It was Kool and the Gang opening for Van Halen with David Lee Roth. And you talk about good times, cousin. Talk about some serious.
That sounds like a killer show there.
You know what I'm saying? Kool and the Gang throwing it down in an arena. Then David Lee Roth and Van
Halen. Oh, what?
I'm just getting all into it, just thinking. So that's a good lead-in. I'm looking at some of the names. Big names you've got, share this. Your PR thing is one of those kind of things. When you look at it, it's just, it makes you think, wow, you must be a real proud cat. I know your daughter, who you're touring with, must be looking at you and thinking, my daddy's done all this stuff with his life. Stevie, I'm going to just name a couple here. Robert Palmer, Stevie Wonder, Los Lobos, Taj Mahal, the great Dr. John, the Fabulous Meters, Alan Toussaint, Paul Simon, Dave Matthews. I name all them cats. I know you can't, and it's not about picking favorites, because you probably have a lot of good friends, because you're just a warm and fuzzy cat. Who wouldn't want to know you and love you? But when you think about some of them experiences, anything spiritual, anything moving with any of those camps that comes to mind, a story?
Well, every time, being anywhere near, cats like that, for me, okay, this is just me, is so unbelievable, you know what I'm saying, that I never thought that I would ever experience anything like that, being by basically cats that I looked up to and learned from and still learn from. And man, it's just no words can describe that feeling. But one thing I always got out of that is, after that happened, it was so surreal, and the only way to explain it to was a gift from God, and it was like the Great Spirit telling me, you on the right track. This is what you're supposed to be doing, and that, knowing that for me is, and I'm sure for just about everybody, you want to know that what you're doing is the right thing. You know what I'm saying? And whenever I encountered my heroes, after the experience was over with, that's what I came back with. That was the conclusion I came back with. Like the Great Spirit was telling me, you on the right track.
It was a reinforcement. I completely get that. I'll pick one of those guys out then because he has been challenged in a way that me and you, thank God, have not, and that's Stevie Wonder. I couldn't imagine going through what that man has had to go through. It doesn't mean that people can't still have egos and be human beings, but I just personally, even if one eye has a problem, I get kind of worked up about it. So I look at him as like the stuff that dude accomplished. I'm stunned just thinking about it. I get kind of queasy. I have to sit down when I think about the magnitude of that guy. So if you can just share any stories of being with him, things you learned about the power, maybe his perception of things.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, I'm glad you picked him because I met him at a point when I was really in doubt about a lot of things, you know. I had lost a few key members in my band, and it just, you know, I had the pressure of raising a family, and you know the music business was still good, but it was doubtful at the time, you know. And we did a show with it was one of Bill Clinton's inaugural balls at his second inauguration, and REO Speedwagon came on.
Wow.
Then we all lined up. The president came by and the first lady. We shook their hands on stage, and it was at the Air and Space Museum at the Smithsonian. So they set up a stage right underneath Charles Lindbergh's plane, and that was my band with REO Speedwagon's band on stage, meeting the president at one of his inaugural balls and the first lady, hearing his speech. Then we played after that, and then all of a sudden a spotlight was shining in the audience, and I'm like, wow, what's that? And I look, and it was Stevie Wonder. And I was like, oh, wow, Stevie Wonder, you know. And then one of his handlers or whatever, managers or whatever you'd call them, right, one of those guys that was around him came up to the stage and pointed, and he made the gesture like Stevie wanted to come up and play with us on harmonica. And I almost fell to my feet and said, "Hail high chief," you know what I'm saying? I said, "Come on, man." So they rushed him up on stage, and he got on stage on one of our songs we were doing. And, man, just jammed for about a good 5 minutes, man, and took it. And then turned around and said, "Thank you." And I'm like, bruh. And I said it. I said, "Hail, high priest, I'm not worthy to receive you, brother." You know, I mean, it's like, wow, did this just happen?
And you're doing that for the audience of the President of the United States.
Yeah, at the inaugural, one of the inaugural balls underneath Lindbergh's plane, man.
Man, and with REO Speedwagon, Kevin's a great guy from that band. People may think of them as just some pop band, but they've written some really inspirational songs.
They've written some great songs, and nice guys.
Very nice.
Humble.
Yes, very.
And it was a beautiful experience all around, and it was like, that was that one time, where, you felt like the Great Spirit was just tapping you on your shoulder and saying, "Hey, man, don't worry. Just keep doing what you're doing, man, and, it'll be all right."
I love it. Well, those are great words to leave it on. It's great words of inspiration, and a wonderful story about hanging with the great Mr. Wonder there and all these other cats. I mean, that does leave a lot to think about there, Terrance.
You really... the road is hard. I drive 50,000 miles a year in the U.S., man, for now the past 30 years. And I fly, also. And it's like, I'm away from home over half of the year. And, it's a sacrifice, but it's a risk well worth taking, brother. I can't explain it. It's an amazing gift, and I look forward to every gig, and I'm totally looking forward to coming back to Hawaii.
Well, everybody's looking forward to that, man.
Aloha, mon ami. Saisitse Terrance Simien. This is Terrance Simien, y'all. You are tuned to member-supported Hawaii Public Radio. And all things considered with my friend Dave Lawrence. Alonzo de Koshe.
Awesome, brother. I saw a great one. Terrance Simien, he is coming to Hawaii. It's going to be 4 big shows. February 18th. It all gets started on Maui, Wednesday night at the Mac. Then it's Thursday night, Crossroads over at Crossroads in Honolulu at Kapiolani Boulevard, Hawaiian Bryant's. Then he heads Friday night, Kauai Marriott Courtyard, Kauai at Coconut Beach. Finally, Saturday night, Hawaii County, Honoka'a People's Theater. Terrance, man, I really, I hope this wasn't a hassle. I really do appreciate you spending some time talking with me. I learned a lot of things today, and it was just, and one of them, amazing stories and a lot of insight. But one thing was that you're just a really cool dude. You gave me a lot of hope for humanity.
Hey, my brother, thank you so much for the kind words, and it was an honor and a privilege to be with you today on All Things Considered, man. Keep on doing what you're doing, informing the people on what's happening.
Well, really, I'm not kidding. That meant a lot, and it was great to talk about the things that we did. I really learned a lot, and I hope that maybe when you're in town, I get a chance to hook up with you if your schedule's not busy. But if it is, just know I appreciate it, brother, and know you just sound like a genuine guy. I learned some stuff. I got to be more patient. That's my big lesson from you today.
Well, I tell you what, man, it's something that'll benefit everybody. You know, patience is something you can't have enough of, and in this world, in these times, you need a lot of it. So the more, the merrier.
Well, I hope you had a good time. I learned a lot.
Thank you, Dave. Aloha, mahalo.
Be safe, Terrance.
Thank you, brother.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.